Welcome to this explainer on biodiversity and conservation. Today, we're going to unpack the truly staggering scale of life on Earth, how it all holds together, and why protecting it is absolutely critical for our very survival. It's a massive topic, but by the end of our time together, you'll see exactly how the pieces of this global puzzle fit together.
Here's a quick look at our agenda for today. The scale of life, the rivet popper hypothesis, the evil quartet, reasons to conserve, and strategies for survival. Let's jump right in.
To immediately get a feel for how wildly diverse our planet actually is, just listen to this statistic. Out of every 10 animals on Earth, 7 of them are insects. Think about that for a second. The vast majority of animal life on this planet isn't mammals or birds. It's crawling, flying, and buzzing all around us.
Section 1. The scale of life. When sociobiologist Edward Wilson championed the term biodiversity, he was talking about an almost unfathomable amount of life. Looking at the 1.5 million species officially recorded by the IUCN, you immediately see a massive disparity. A whopping 70% of recorded species are animals, while plants make up just 22%.
But it gets even wilder when you break those major groups down. Insects absolutely dominate the invertebrates, for sure. But look at fungi. Fungi species actually outnumber fishes, amphibians, reptiles, and mammals combined. It's crazy to think about, but the hidden networks of mushrooms and molds represent a larger slice of biodiversity than almost all the animals we typically see at the zoo.
Now, geography is a massive player in where all this diversity actually lives. Basically, as you move from the poles toward the equator, life just skyrockets. Take India, for example. It occupies only 2.4% of the world's land area, yet it holds an impressive 8.1% of global species diversity. To put that into perspective, a temperate region near the poles, like Greenland, has only about 56 species of birds. India? Over 1,200. It's night and day.
Section 2. The rivet popper hypothesis. So, how does this giant complex web of life actually function? Well, ecologists have found that as you explore more area, you find more species, up to a point anyway. But for massive ecosystems, this relationship is incredibly steep. Mathematically, what this means is that shrinking huge habitats like the Amazon rainforest doesn't just reduce population slightly, it triggers a catastrophic, cascading loss of the birds and mammals that live there.
To really drive home the stakes here, Stanford ecologist Paul Ehrlich came up with this brilliant analogy. He compared Earth, or really any ecosystem, to an airplane in mid-flight. And every single species within that ecosystem, they're the thousands of rivets holding that entire plane together.
You've probably heard people ask this very question. Does it really matter if a few random species of bugs or frogs go extinct? Well, think about the airplane. If passengers start popping out rivets one by one to take home as souvenirs, the plane probably isn't going to crash right away. But as more and more are lost, the structure gets dangerously weak. Eventually, you lose a critical rivet on the wing, representing a keystone species, and the entire airplane, the whole ecosystem, just completely collapses.
Which brings us to Section 3, the evil quartet.
So, who exactly is popping all these rivets? We are. We're currently right in the middle of what scientists call the 6th extinction. Now, Earth has seen 5 mass extinctions before humans even existed, but the huge difference today is velocity. Species are dying out right now at a rate 100 to 1,000 times faster than in pre-human times.
To categorize the primary culprits driving this massive acceleration, ecologist Jared Diamond coined a pretty ominous but accurate moniker, the evil quartet. These are the 4 major human-driven mechanisms of modern biodiversity loss. This quartet starts off with habitat loss and fragmentation. Think of clearing the Amazon for soy cultivation, which is by far the biggest threat. Then you have overexploitation, where human greed literally wiped out creatures like the passenger pigeon. Next up are alien species invasions. A classic example is introducing the Nile perch into Lake Victoria, which decimated over 200 unique species of fish. And finally, co-extinctions. That's where losing one species directly triggers the demise of another that depended on it.
Section 4. Reasons to conserve.
Knowing these severe threats are out there, why is halting this loss absolutely non-negotiable? Well, from a narrowly utilitarian perspective, meaning direct economic benefits, consider this. Over 25% of all drugs sold worldwide are derived directly from plant species. Plus, 25,000 species contribute to traditional medicines. We are literally burning nature's biological library before we've even cataloged the books that could cure diseases.
But beyond just economics, we have broadly utilitarian needs. We're talking massive ecosystem services here. For instance, the Amazon rainforest produces roughly 20% of the total oxygen in Earth's atmosphere. You literally can't put a price tag on breathing, right? And on a philosophical level, we have a fundamental ethical obligation to respect that every single species has intrinsic value, completely regardless of its immediate use to us.
Section 5. Strategies for survival.
So, with our motivations clear, how do we actually go about protecting our global biological wealth? Conservation efforts are broadly split into two main approaches. In-situ conservation means protecting the animal or plant exactly where it naturally lives, and ex-situ conservation means taking the threatened species out of its natural habitat and placing it in a specialized, controlled facility.
In-situ conservation is all about protecting entire ecosystems. Because, when you save the whole forest, you automatically save the tiger living inside it. Globally, scientists have identified 34 biodiversity hotspots, regions with immense but highly threatened diversity. In India, for example, they use legal protections across 14 biosphere reserves, 90 national parks, and nearly 450 wildlife sanctuaries. They also rely on sacred groves, which are forest patches traditionally preserved by local communities.
However, when a species is in immediate, dire peril of extinction, ex-situ methods have to become our ultimate biological safety nets. We use places like zoological parks and botanical gardens to keep them alive. But modern science has taken this a step further. We now use seed banks to preserve different genetic strains, and we even use cryopreservation techniques to freeze the gametes of threatened species, keeping them viable for long periods of time.
Because biodiversity obviously doesn't care about political borders drawn on a map, conservation requires massive global cooperation. Back in 1992, the historic Earth Summit in Rio called on all nations to conserve biodiversity. A decade later, at the 2002 World Summit in Johannesburg, 190 countries actually pledged their commitment to achieve a significant reduction in the current rate of biodiversity loss.
I really hope this explainer has illuminated the awe-inspiring scale of our biosphere, as well as the very real threats it faces right now. We are all passengers flying on this magnificent, incredibly complex ecological airplane. So it leaves us with a pretty profound final thought. Which rivets are you going to help protect before the damage to our shared home becomes totally irreversible?